Welcome to the deep dive. First off, we want to thank stocktelescope.com for providing the stack of sources we're digging into today.
Yeah, great stuff from them.
Our main source is their daily market compass from June 17th, 2025, and it pulls together key bits from places like CNBC, The Wall Street Journal, Reuters, the usual suspects. So our goal here is to just unpack the most important nuggets from today's news markets, business, economics, world events, sort of get you quickly informed without all the noise.
But through the clutter.
Yeah, exactly. We'll touch on market moves, some really interesting company stuff, big tech, renewables taking a hit, key economic numbers, and some global updates too.
Lots to cover.
Definitely. And hey, if you find this kind of thing valuable, cutting through the noise, make sure you subscribe to The Deep Dive, wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss future dives.
Good point.
Okay, let's unpack this stack, see what jumps out from June 17th.
All right, let's do it. Where do we start?
Let's start with the markets. Just a quick look back at yesterday, June 16th. The sources showed a pretty positive close.
Yeah, things look good end of day Monday.
Right. All three main indexes were up quite a bit. Dow gained 317 points, S&P 500 up almost 1%, and the Nasdaq surged over 1.5%. Solid finish.
It was definitely a strong day. But, what's fascinating is how fast that sentiment can shift, right?
Yeah.
Well, while yesterday saw those gains, the daily market compass notes that futures were actually nudging lower this morning, June 17th, before the open.
Huh.
It just reminds you how dynamic these markets are. Yesterday's momentum doesn't just automatically roll over.
No, definitely not. Speaking of fast-moving, let's talk big tech and AI. Never a dull moment there.
True that.
I got a couple of really interesting, maybe even conflicting updates on OpenAI from the sources. First up, reports that OpenAI might be looking at antitrust action against Microsoft, their main partner.
Wow, okay, that seems significant, especially given how tight that partnership is, right? 6 years, huge investment from Microsoft.
Exactly. Over resource and IP control, the sources say.
Yeah, I mean, connecting that to the bigger picture, it really brings up questions about power dynamics in these AI partnerships, doesn't it?
For sure.
A startup leaning so heavily on a giant like Microsoft for, everything, infrastructure, money, reach, disputes over control, IP, it can get complicated fast. Even for strategic allies, it's that classic tension, collaboration versus control.
Right. And then, almost like a completely different story for OpenAI, the sources also say they just landed a $200 million contract with the U.S. defense sector.
Okay, so that shows AI isn't just, commercial products. It's increasingly about national security, too.
Yeah.
A $200 million defense contract.
Yeah.
That definitely diversifies OpenAI's focus, brings in a whole different set of stakeholders, different questions about how AI gets used in, say, military or intelligence work.
Interesting contrast. Okay, staying in tech but shifting to ads. Big news for streaming TV ads. Looks like Amazon and Roku agreed to combine their connected TV ad audiences.
Oh, that's a big move. Strategic, definitely, in that streaming battleground.
Yeah, the sources say this could boost their combined ad reach by like 40%.
Wow.
And the market noticed. Roku shares jumped 10% yesterday on the news.
Well, that reaction really highlights how much value the market puts on these unified ad platforms now, getting that big combined audience in the fragmented streaming world.
Right.
For you, the viewer, it probably means you might see more targeted, maybe more relevant ads across different services as Amazon and Roku team up. Makes ad buying easier for brands.
Makes sense. And Amazon's not the only one finding new spots for ads. Meta, according to The Verge, is adding ads to WhatsApp's Updates tab.
There you go. Meta keeps finding new ways to monetize, doesn't it?
Seems like it.
I mean, after pulling in over $160 billion in ad revenue last year, they're clearly looking everywhere. It shows how companies are always scouting for new places to put ads, even in apps you might think of mainly for chatting.
Yeah, like WhatsApp. Okay, let's move from big tech. Let's hit some company spotlights and industry shifts. Some of these moves today are pretty dramatic.
Like the solar stocks.
Exactly. They just plunged in pre-market trading today.
Yeah, saw those headlines. Steep declines.
And the reason, according to the sources, is a proposed phase-out of solar and wind tax incentives by 2028. And it wasn't a small dip. Sunrun, down a massive 35%.
35%.
SolarEdge, down 29%. Enphase lost 20%. For solar, fell 17%. I mean, these are huge reactions to just a proposal.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That immediate, severe reaction, just based on potential policy changes. It really underscores how sensitive some sectors are, especially renewables that rely on those incentives for their economics.
Definitely.
Those credits are baked right into their financial models, their expected profits. So for you, if you're invested in or just watching renewable energy, it's a stark reminder that policy risk, it's very real, can cause these sharp, sudden drops.
Good point. Okay, switching gears completely. A legal fight brewing between two brands you definitely know. Duracell.
The battery guys.
Right. Owned by Berkshire Hathaway, they're suing Energizer.
Ah, the other battery guys. What's the issue?
False advertising, apparently.
Yeah.
About battery life claims.
Okay. So Duracell says Energizer's fibbing about how long their batteries last.
That's what the sources say. And Duracell is seeking financial damages, so it sounds serious.
Yeah, that raises interesting questions about, marketing ethics and consumer trust.
Yeah.
Especially in markets where brands are always trying to one-up each other. When a major player like Duracell actually sues for damages, it suggests they see it as more than just marketing fluff. A real challenge.
Highlights that fine line in advertising, right?
Exactly.
Okay, here's kind of an interesting turnaround story, maybe. Rent the Runway, the clothing rental place.
Ah, yeah. What's happening there?
Sources say their active subscribers jumped 23% quarter over quarter, up to 147,000.
Okay, that subscriber growth sounds pretty positive for them, trying to stabilize things.
It does, but it's against a tough background. Revenue actually dropped 7.2% despite the subscriber jump, and the stock down 40% year to date. According to the Wall Street Journal, their plan is to try and boost retention by doubling their inventory and adding 90 new brands.
Right. So that highlights a company really trying to navigate choppy waters by focusing on the core service, more clothes, more brands, hoping that drives growth and keeps subscribers around, even with revenue pressure. Shows how companies prioritize different things depending on where they are.
Makes sense. Okay, now a company facing some heat. Palantir. Reports say they're facing questions from 10 Democratic lawmakers.
About what?
About over $113 million in federal contracts they got during the Trump administration.
Ah, okay. And the concerns are?
Sources mention worries about potential consolidation of data on Americans and maybe legal risks around privacy violations from those contracts.
Right. That shows that ongoing tension, where government contracts, big data tech, privacy worries, and political oversight all collide. It really raises that important question about how government should use this kind of powerful tech and where the lines are for privacy and civil liberties.
Yeah, a tricky intersection.
Very complex.
Okay, back to Amazon quickly. Expanding Prime Day.
Oh, yeah. How so?
CNBC says they're making it 4 days this year, July 8th through 11th, and adding rotating daily deal drops.
Ah, okay. Clear strategy there. Boost sales, get more Prime members, keep existing ones happy, make it a longer, more dynamic event. Prime Day's already huge, right? This is just evolving it.
Seems like it. And in the packaged goods world, Kraft Heinz is making a change.
Oh, yeah? What are they doing?
The Wall Street Journal reports they plan to get rid of artificial dyes from their U.S. products by 2027.
Interesting. Why now?
Well, the source mentions regulatory pressure, plus growing consumer health concerns about artificial stuff. It just reflects that broader shift, people wanting more natural ingredients and big food companies responding.
Makes sense. So for you, the consumer, it might just mean some of your favorite snacks look a little different in a few years.
Could be. Okay, let's end this section on a high note from entertainment. Universal's live-action How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, the movie. How'd it do?
Did well. Topped the U.S. box office opening weekend, $83.7 million. Better than expected, according to CNN.
Nice.
Yeah, it even apparently beat Disney's Lilo and Stitch prequel at the box office.
Huh. Well, that shows that good execution with a popular franchise can still really deliver. Big wins are possible, even against giants like Disney. Strong content matters.
True. Okay, let's shift our view globally for a sec. Some Asia-linked stock news from the sources. SK Hynix shares.
The memory chip maker.
Yep, hit a 20-year high.
Wow. How much are they up?
Gained 3% yesterday, and they're up 50% this year so far. 50%.
That's massive. What's driving it?
Reports say their parent company plans to build South Korea's biggest AI data center. And they're doing it with Amazon Web Services.
Ah, okay. That totally underscores the huge money flowing into AI infrastructure everywhere, right? From the chips SK Hynix makes to the massive data centers needed to run the AI.
Yeah.
And it shows how connected global tech is. A South Korean chip giant partnering with a U.S. cloud leader.
Good point. Also, a big stock sale involving SoftBank.
What do they sell?
Reuters reports they sold 21.5 million shares of T-Mobile. Got $4.8 billion for it, though they sold at a bit of a discount, about 3%.
Okay. Are they getting out completely?
No, the source says even after this sale, SoftBank is still T-Mobile's second largest shareholder.
Ah, got it. So it sounds more like a strategic move to sell off a chunk, maybe raise cash or rebalance things, not a full exit.
Seems that way. And one more from overseas, in energy, Mitsubishi is apparently negotiating a big buy.
Who are they buying?
The Wall Street Journal says Mitsubishi's talking about buying Aethon Energy's shale gas assets in Texas and Louisiana for $8 billion.
$8 billion. Okay. That shows continued global interest, big international companies like Mitsubishi wanting U.S. energy assets.
Yeah.
Specifically, shale gas. Looks like a long-term strategic energy play.
Yeah, significant deal if it happens.
Okay.
Let's pivot to some key economic data, highlighted in today's Daily Market Compass. Retail sales was a big one.
Oh, right. The May numbers came out. How did they look?
Not great. Retail sales tumbled 0.9% year over year. That was worse than the 0.6% decline analysts expected.
Ouch. What about excluding autos? Sometimes that skews things.
Yeah, even ex-autos, sales still dipped 0.3%, and the forecast was for a small rise, 0.1%.
Okay, so that's pretty significant then. Signals maybe some weakening consumer momentum, wouldn't you say?
Seems like it.
Retail sales are such a key indicator of spending, which drives so much of the economy. For you, the listener, this might reflect people getting a bit more cautious with their spending, raises questions about, the health of consumer demand going forward and what that means for growth.
Definitely something to watch. Oil prices were up today, according to Reuters.
How much?
Up about 1.1%. The source links it to the ongoing tensions between Iran and Israel, even though there aren't reports of actual supply disruptions yet.
Right, just the risk perception.
Yeah. WTI futures hit $72.54, Brent $74.05. It just shows how that global geopolitical risk, even just the threat of something happening, can hit commodity prices directly and eventually what you pay at the pump.
Absolutely. Always connected.
Okay, let's touch on some world news and politics. We'll just report impartially based on the sources here. President Trump apparently left the G7 summit early.
Why was that?
Amid those escalating Israel-Iran tensions we just mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
CNBC also reported he called for evacuations of Tehran.
Right, and the G7 leaders.
Sources like CNBC said the G7 leaders backed Israel and condemned Iran in their talks.
Okay, so as reported, it highlights the ongoing volatility there in the Middle East and the immediate international reaction from the G7 powers.
Exactly. Switching to trade policy news, President Trump signed an order cutting tariffs on UK car imports.
Oh, yeah. How much?
Down to 10% from 25%, according to the BBC. The order also approved tariff-free quotas for U.S. ethanol and beef going to the UK.
Okay. And this was expected.
The source said it formalizes parts of a trade deal they reached last month.
Got it. So it shows specific progress on that U.S.-UK trade relationship, detailing the changes for cars, ethanol, beef.
Right. Now, a very concerning report out of Minnesota about the shootings that killed a state representative.
Yes, truly awful news. What are the sources saying now?
NPR reports the investigation is treating it as targeted political violence.
Targeted, okay.
And the source provided details. The suspect, Vance Bolter, reportedly had a hit list, 45 officials on it. He's facing federal murder charges.
It's just deeply disturbing. A very serious report about domestic political violence, citing those specific alleged actions and motivations from the source material.
Yeah, really awful. Okay, also in legal news, a verdict came down regarding MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell.
Oh, Lindell, what was the outcome?
The Associated Press reports a jury found him guilty of defaming a former Dominion Voting Systems employee.
Guilty. Okay. Any damages awarded?
Yes. The report says Lindell has to pay $2.3 million.
Wow.
And the AP source notes Lindell, who, keeps pushing those 2020 election conspiracy theories, plans to appeal.
Right. So a legal outcome related to defamation claims stemming from the post-2020 election period.
Correct. Finally, on a sadder note, the sources mentioned a notable passing. Leonard Lauder, former CEO of Estee Lauder Companies, died at 92.
Oh, wow. A true giant in that industry. His impact was just immense, wasn't it?
Sounds like it.
According to CNN, under him, the company went from under $1 million in sales to this global powerhouse with a $24 billion market cap. It's really a powerful reminder of what long-term strategic leadership can do, building these huge global brands over decades.
Incredible legacy. Okay, before we wrap up, just a quick glance at the calendar. Upcoming financial events mentioned in the sources. Today, June 17th, still have some data coming out. Industrial production, the NAHB housing market index.
Right. And then tomorrow, June 18th, is pretty key. We get housing starts, but the big one is the Fed.
Hmm.
Interest rate decision and the press conference afterward.
Always a market mover. The Daily Market Compass also flagged recent earnings, Lennar, Jabil, and some potential IPOs this week. An AI biotech firm, a specialty insurer.
Yeah, so that quick look just shows even after covering all this news today, there's still more important data, Fed decisions, company news coming right up that will keep shaping the picture.
Never stops, does it?
Rarely.
Yeah.
So I guess, what does all this June 17th info really tell us? Looking back at the snapshot, I mean, we've seen everything, haven't we? From that instant market slam on solar stocks, from just a policy proposal,
Yeah.
to the really complex, maybe even tense dynamics in AI partnerships. Signs of the consumer maybe pulling back a bit in retail sales, and then these major global political and legal events.
It's a lot.
It really is. It's just such a powerful illustration of how interconnected everything is, right? Markets, business, current events, a policy idea here, geopolitical tension over there. It all ripples through.
Absolutely. And maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. How many of these things that seem separate, AI defense contracts, retail sales dipping, Middle East tensions, how might they actually influence each other in ways we don't expect over the next few months? Which of these threads do you think ends up having the biggest impact down the line?
Good question to ponder.
So that's our deep dive into the sources for June 17th. Hopefully it gave you a quicker, clearer grasp on some key things happening right now.
Hope it's useful.
And remember, if you did find this helpful, cutting through the overload, getting those insights, please take just a second right now and subscribe to the deep dive wherever you're listening. It's honestly the best way to make sure you don't miss our future explorations.
Yeah, we appreciate the support.
We do. Until next time, keep exploring.